We've got first levels, final levels, fire levels, water levels. We got filler levels. We got short levels. We got long levels. We got mind-bending different levels. We've got those levels we love to play over and over and over again. But I really think we're underestimating how important level design is to video games. Hey! Hi, how you doing? This is the Gamertron, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. And this is why level design is so important in video games. This is something I think a lot of us overlook or forget about, and we don't realize just how important it is in our video games. Because while we love weapons and characters and stories in video games, a big part of the gameplay and the setting of the world is dependent on the design of the levels, of the locations of the maps. I mean, look at it this way. A map or level that looks like this isn't as memorable or as fun to play in as a level that looks like this. And I think a lot of us, when we're playing our video games, don't appreciate or actually look for good level design, whether it be an individual map or a big open world map. Hell, not just on the 3D plane. Let's remember, back in the day, video games were nothing but 2D platformers. And when video games were 2D platformers, level design was even more important because, well, on a 2D plane, just moving in a straight line, just moving left or right, isn't too much fun. You need to have those jumps, those obstacles, those traps, those bottomless pits, those secret passageways. Just moving straight to the right or just moving straight to the left isn't that much fun. You need to do something to keep the player engaged and make the levels something to remember by. Now, some of the worst level design I've seen is from the Call of Duty single-player games. Now, don't misunderstand me. The levels themselves aren't bad, but the thing that saves the levels isn't the detail in the maps, isn't the environment itself, or at least the setting of the environment, or the action-packed set pieces in those levels. The problem is, the only thing the levels have going for them is the action-packed set pieces and the level of detail in the environment and setting. That's what makes the levels memorable, not necessarily for their design, because in the Call of Duty single-player levels, you're always going forward. You're always going forward. Sometimes you may strafe to the left, may strafe to the right, sometimes you gotta walk up a ladder and stuff like that, but for the most part, you are going in a straight line. But how the Call of Duty devs avoid it being obvious that you're just moving in a straight line, they pack a ton of details into the environment and setting, and they add in action-packed set pieces. Compare Call of Duty's first-person shooter level design to that of my favorite first-person shooters, the Crysis games. The Crysis game levels work like this. There's a wide open area and a corridor that leads to the next wide open area. So while there is some linearity to the Crysis games, it's mostly wide open, vertical, and gives the player a variety of options of where they want to move amongst the level, while spreading different enemies, weapons, and items across the level in different spots. That kind of open-endedness and player choice to the level design makes the levels far more memorable and likable. Now, my apologies for getting slightly off topic. I was talking about 2D platformers, then I switched to first-person shooters almost immediately. Back to 2D platformers. Now, 2D platformer games, in terms of their level design, are always challenged with trying to make the level memorable and getting the player from point A to B without it feeling like you're just moving in a straight line. So we have the aforementioned obstacles and platforms and bottomless pits. But it's more than that, because you can't just place them willy-nilly. You have to have variety, you have to have patterns. And you have to make sure the spacing between platforms and traps and bottomless pits and secret passageways and enemy spawn points, you have to space them out just right. Put them too close together and the level will feel cluttered and messy. Put them too far apart, and parts of the level will feel just empty, like nothing's happening. And then when it comes to level design, here's an important factor that a lot of games, not just 2D platformers, not just first-person shooters, not just open-world games, have to take into consideration. Do you want your level design to be video gamey or realistic? For instance, say your level takes place in a building. There's certain variables to a building, certain elements and aspects to a building, to the location of a building, let's say a work office. In an office building, if you were going for a realistic design, there are certain aspects you would have to take into account. Does the interior of the building match the size and shape of the exterior of the building? Because if you're going for a realistic design, you have to have some basic knowledge of architecture. If you're doing an open world player goes where they want kind of game, and it's a more realistic style of game, you want windows, desks, chairs, printers, placed in areas in a certain way. If you're doing a more linear game, if your game is more linear and you want the player to go through a specific path, you have to lay out the level in such a way that it doesn't feel forced. Again, to bring up Call of Duty as an example, a lot of the linearity in the Call of Duty single-player levels feels extremely forced. Like, there's no logical reason why I can't go here or can't go there. The linearity of your level needs to feel natural and fluid and smooth. You cannot allow your player to feel like they're going in a straight line. That is the worst thing you could ever want. And the same thing kind of goes for open world games too. You can't have stretches of land that just have nothing and go nowhere. Open world games like Fallout 3 and Skyrim avoid this by making every single area, every speck of land in the game, in the open world environment, special and have something unique to it. Like for instance, maybe this spot on the map will give you an interesting view of a new place to explore. Maybe this spot of the map will have a hidden pile of loot, or a side quest that triggers when you enter a specific area. Now, I'm not saying treat the player like a dog or a baby and just wave keys in their face. Horrible analogy, I know, but what makes a good level in a video game, to me at least, is having the right amount of clutter in the level, the right amount of obstacles, the right amount of enemy placement, slower parts where you're just moving around from place to place, maybe a little bit of platforming, just experiencing and getting into the environment, traps and obstacles like I've mentioned before. I mean, for instance, just think of some of your favorite levels from video games. What about them made them so memorable to you? I can guarantee you that it wasn't just the story moment in that level, and it wasn't just the set piece in that level. Level design plays a part. Real video game level design is what separates the flat, lifeless corridors of levels to the big, sprawling, dynamic, versatile, vertical levels of a video game with good level design. Now, of course, I'm no expert and I can't look at this 100% objectively, but I'd like to think I'm intelligent enough, despite my goldfish-sized brain, to tell good level design from bad level design, to tell apart from the lazy levels and the levels where you can tell the developer were just having so much fun putting this together. Level design is an integral part of our video games, and we may forget or not notice it from time to time. Now, everybody will always have their own favorite, unique, different levels. Some people prefer the big, wide-open levels. Others do prefer the linear corridors. Some people like the challenging levels that really test your skills with platforming, traps, enemy placement. But again, all that stuff needs to be there for there to be actual level design. And in my opinion, you've gotta have that verticality. You've gotta have those little secrets and shortcuts. You gotta have detail. And finally, most important to me, doesn't matter if you're an open world game or a linear corridor-based game, never ever feel like you're forcing the player through the level. Level progression through the level design has to feel natural. You have to feel like you're exploring the environment, like you're discovering it. You gotta feel like this is a natural progression of moving from location to location. Your level design should never feel like you're forcing the player, like they have no control. Because if there's one thing as video gamers that we love, if there's one thing as gamers, as players that we love, it's having that control. So yeah, that's my tangent on video game level design and video game levels. I know a lot of this went nowhere, but it was a fun conversation, I think, because we overlook, we overestimate, we forget about level design in our video games. So please, look at levels in video games, look at your favorite levels in video games, and see why you may love a particular type of level design. The harder ones, the easier ones, the slower ones, the clutter ones, the messy ones, the explosive ones, the ones full of set pieces. Level design is important to video games. See which ones are your favorite, and don't forget how important they are. But that's been a video. Now, what are your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on level design in video games, and what are your favorite? Let me know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions in the comment section below. Please leave a comment. I love reading comments. I get nearly enough comments. Please leave a comment. And if you like the video, in any way, shape, or form, please hit the like button. Hitting the like button helps you, helps me, helps everybody involved with the video if you hit the like button. And finally, I am the Gamertron. I love video games. I love talking about video games. And if that's something that interests you, maybe consider supporting my channel by subscribing to me. Anyways, guys, this has been a video, and I will see you guys later.